Okay, students, you must always be aware that the main purpose of this module is to support students with various problems or challenges that they come across with. So it's same with the mathematics. It's not always enough to identify the problem, but we need to support. So when we come with the support, it can be a general support or a specific support. You will find all these on page 314 of your study guide. For instance, the general support is when we are saying, how do you in general support a learner with a mathematic problem, not a specific problem, whatever problem that is related to mathematics? How can you support students in that one? Generally, we are always advised to start from concrete to abstract. When you teach mathematics, you start with concrete terms, something that the learners are familiar with, that they can manipulate, they can touch, they can see, they can observe. You know, those things are concrete objects. You start there before you move into the theory of mathematics. Even when you make your examples, make examples with things that your learners are familiar with. So the context is very important. Where are you geographically, for instance? Use the examples that your learners are aware of. Don't use examples of things that the learners have not seen, because in their immediate surroundings, those things are not there. So you're becoming abstract from the beginning. No, don't move from abstract to concrete, but move from concrete to abstract. Two, you must have, when you are a mathematics teacher, you must have this sensitivity and empathy, you know, feel for your learners, understand what they are going through. You know, mathematics can be very frustrating sometimes, especially if the learner does not have the background, the basic terms that help them to understand whatever the new thing that you're teaching. It can be very frustrating to them. So as a form of general support, you as an educator should be sensitive, show sensitivity, empathy, show care, love for the child, you know, always. That is where things like individualization come in, differentiation, where you will be having sometimes one-on-one with a particular child, because you are able to identify their problem as a problem that is specific or unique to that particular child. So you cannot just support the child as if you are not aware that they are struggling with a particular thing. So you become very sensitive in your approach and put yourself in the shoes of that particular child. As I said to you earlier, you find that the ways of how to support them generally on page 314 of your study guide. So they also will be the specific ways of dealing with specific problems in mathematics. And you find that on page 316 of your study guide, where you have to teach basic facts, where you have got to provide enough opportunities for repetition, drill if it's important, and practical exercises. You know, repetition is important to some students. So this is a specific support. In other words, the drill, the repetition is important, but for specific children, you do that as a teacher because you are giving a specific support. It's not something that you can do to every learner that you are teaching mathematics. Some learners will not need this kind of support. Right. Now we're moving on to a new cause of barrier to learning, which is epilepsy. Epilepsy is very, very difficult to deal with, especially if it's not the kind of epilepsy that will be accompanied by obvious seizures, but a kind of epilepsy that is like very subtle. Sometimes you cannot even be aware that the child is suffering. But what we are giving you here is how you deal with a seizure in class. You are a teacher, you are teaching in class, and suddenly this child is attacked by an epileptic seizure. What do? First of all, you must be alert all the time. Look out for warnings. We want to believe that in your class, you are aware of those learners that are epileptic, because it is a requirement that parents divulge this information. They must make this information available for the teachers. If it's not the parent, it must be a teacher from the previous grade. When the learners move to you with their files, in their files, there must be something that says, this learner has got epilepsy, so that you will be able to know how to deal with them. So in this module, we are just giving you the hints on how you can support such a learner in your classroom that you are aware of, or it's the first time that the learner is attacked by epilepsy. You haven't heard of it before, or even the learner was not aware that they're having it. So you must always be alert. Look for warning signs. So once it happens, you must record all the incidents of the seizure. When did it start? What happens? Or what happened before, if we were able to see that? How long does it take? Because these seizures are not the same. Some will be of a shorter time, some will be of a longer time. The longer it becomes, the more dangerous it becomes. So you must be able to record all what happens during the seizure so that proper follow-up will be done. It's important to remain calm. As a teacher, don't panic. You are not the one to panic first. Remember, it happens in a classroom situation. There are other learners that are involved in this class. They are seeing what is happening. Some of them are scared. Some of them are somehow traumatized. This is their friend. They don't know what is going on. So you as a teacher, remain calm. Your calmness will move on to your learners. Prevent the learner from falling down on their faces. You must push the furniture away. So wherever the learner has fallen, it must be clear. There must be no furniture close by, because it can be dangerous. Do not hold the learner steadfast so that they cannot move. Don't try to prevent movement. It is allowed. It needs to happen. We have seen teachers pressing the child down, even asking other learners to help so that this child is pressed down so that they cannot move. No, the movement is allowed. As long as the learner is safe on the floor, this kind of jerking movement is allowed. Let it happen. Ensure that the airway is clear. The child should have ample space to breathe. So the position in which they are lying down must allow them to breathe. Turn them onto their sides so that you prevent choking. So if, for instance, if they are sleeping facing upwards, the saliva can be a choker. It can be something that is dangerous. If the learner has sustained injuries, those are the only times when you seek medical assistance. It is when the seizure is taking too long. It is when the learner chokes. It is when the learner sustains any injuries. Then you need medical assistance. But otherwise, it's something that you can handle in class, you as a teacher. It's something that you will not need a doctor or medical assistance for. I think that it helps a lot when it comes to how we deal with epileptic seizures in class. Remember again, if you come across a question that deals with epilepsy in the examination, You must check what the examiner wants from you. Do they want the support of the learner which has got epilepsy in general? How can you support a learner who has got epilepsy in general? Or they're specific, they are saying, how can you support the learner with a epileptic seizure in the classroom? So there can be a difference there. Sometimes you hear people saying, students, not people, students. The question is asked about how you support the learner which is having an epileptic seizure in class. They give general response. They talk about calling the parents of the child. No, here is the child. The child is with you in class. What do you do in class? You cannot stand there and wait for a parent who may not even come because of various problems. Right, let's move on now to another thing that can become a barrier to learning of children. Perceptual motor skills. This is very, very interesting, especially with the learners that are young, foundation phase learners, because they are the ones that are still struggling a lot in terms of the development of their perceptual motor skills. It does happen sometimes that this problem moves on up until the learner is in the upper phases. It can be that a learner maybe in the intermediate phase or even in the senior phase is still having a problem with perceptual motor skills. These are the skills that need to be developed early in the lives of the children. But if it has not been developed earlier on, and the child comes to you in class with such problems, then it becomes your duty to help that learner develop those perceptual motor skills. Because if they are not developed, it becomes a barrier to their learning, as you will see how, as we move on to the types that can be. So when you talk about perceptual motor skills, we're talking about something that has got to do with perceptions, that have got to do with senses, as well as the movement. How is the child able to balance between their senses and the movement? Let's look at the gross motor skills, for instance. What are gross motor skills or abilities of the children? These refer to the power of the coordination in learners' larger muscles of the body. You see a child that has got the larger muscles that have not well developed. How do you see that child? They've got a very poor coordination. They are unable to participate in play activities and movement games. They may walk in a clumsy way. It means their gross motor skills are not well developed. They are able to run properly, to jump and do all those things. But these are not problems that we'll find in most of the learners. Many learners, especially in the foundation phase, will suffer from the lack of growth in their fine motor skills, whereby they've got to use maybe their fingers, how to hold the pen, for instance, how to fasten their shoelaces, for instance. Those are fine motor skills. Those are the most important skills in the classroom, because we as teachers require our learners to do a lot of cutting, a lot of writing, all those things. When they do those activities, they use these fine motor skills. So you need to have them develop those. How do you help them as a teacher? By giving them exercises that will constantly require them to use their small fingers, for instance. How do you develop the gross motor skills? You develop that by ensuring that the learners are given time to run, play outside the classroom so that their muscles will develop. So another problem or another component of perceptual motor skills that can be a problem if it's not well developed in a child is spatial perception. Spatial perception refers to the ability to identify relations between objects using concepts such as something is away from me, is close to me, is it big, is it small? Remember, when you communicate with your learners in class, you use a lot of those words: big, away, close, small, but other children, you might not be aware that they've got spatial perception motor skills. In other words, they are not able to identify how close this is to me. How far is this thing to me? How big is this bottle compared to that bottle? It becomes a problem when you're trying to teach them. Sometimes it becomes a physical barrier. For instance, if the child has a gross spatial perception problem, such that they are not they are not able to see how close the window is to them specifically. So you find that they can even hit themselves against the wall when they are moving, against the window. And you're asking yourself, what is happening? You hear other teachers saying, can't you see? Are you walking with your eyes closed? No, the child has got a deeper problem than that. This is a spatial perception problem. They can see, but they are not able to see how close or how far this thing is in the way that for their age they are supposed to see. All right. When you say to them, this thing is under the desk, do something under your desk, they don't know what do you mean. How is under different from on top, from beneath? That is what we call spatial perception. It has got a devastating effect on the child, especially in the foundation phase. So you must look out for those. There's also another perceptual motor skill that can be a problem when it's not developed well. It's called laterality. It's not a skill per se, but it's when learners cannot identify if something is on their left-hand side or right-hand side. This is a problem that even some older people have. When you say, no, take that thing, is on your right-hand side, or you saying to them, move towards your left, they first think, where is my left? Where is my right? But because they are older people, eventually they are able to find it. Oh, my left is that side, my right is that side. But with young children, it can become a problem such that they just cannot be able to tell. You've got to push them towards that direction to say, when I say to the left, I mean that side. Otherwise, they are not able to see it themselves. If this skill is not well developed in 3-year-olds, it may affect areas such as their writing. Because you remember, when you teach them to write, they've got to write from right to left. But if they've got this problem of laterality, they don't know the problem. I mean, the difference between left and right. This is where you see children writing from left to right instead of right to left. There are children who are doing that, and the teachers are not sure what is going on. We are saying to you, as a teacher who are going to be teaching teachers who are going to be teaching in inclusive schools, you must be aware and know that this child is suffering from this kind of a learning barrier, and this is how I can support the particular learner. Right. Earlier on, Dr. Mkhuma, when he presented here, he talked about the parents who come to school showing different kinds of attitudes, which results from whether they understand the disability that their child is suffering from or they do not. Some of them are very angry. Some of them are submissive. They just listen to you and they think you are the savior. They can't do anything. You are the one who can do anything. If we can come back, go back to that, look at parents, because we need them to support their learners as well. They've got different patterns that they go through, the emotional patterns that they go through before they can even accept that their child has got an impairment. And as a teacher, you must be able to see that when you have a conversation, for instance, with the parent, that, okay, this parent does not want to accept. So it means they are still at a certain stage of their trying to come into terms with what is happening with their child. They will go through grief. Some will feel like they are guilty of this. Some will be very anxious. Some will have resentment. Some will be in denial. Some will be very angry. Some will be overprotecting their children. Some will just reject what is happening in their children and even reject their children. Some will overcompensate for what the child is having. Some will feel rejected themselves as parents. So when they come to you as a teacher, you must be able to identify the stage that this parent is in so that you try to support them as well, because you need them to support the child. If they are not supported themselves, they cannot support the child. Now let us move on another barrier, which is Down syndrome. We have had a lot of our students before when it comes to Down syndrome and autism. When they are writing their assignments, they will ask us, in the study guide, there's very little information on Down syndrome. Where do I get more? We always tell them that there is more on Down syndrome and autism in tutorial letter 102. That is very important. What is Down syndrome? It is the result of an oddity of genes in the 21st chromosome. Children with syndrome usually have a slow rate of learning. They will have motor skills challenges like poor manipulation due to low muscle tones or underdeveloped fine motor skills in their hands or in their arms. Some will have shorter limbs and digits. Some will have reduced stamina. So this all leads to their poor manipulation. What are implications of this in their learning? You will find that their handwriting may be oversized or undersized, too much oversized. Like when they're writing, they can't write on the spaces that are provided. Their handwriting becomes too big for that, or it becomes too small for that. Their manual skills such as cutting, using concrete materials and equipment may be less accurate, and they complete whatever task that is given more slowly. So you as a teacher must be aware of that when you devise the support strategy for these learners. What support strategies are there, for instance? Use alternative tasks for recording, e.g. cut and paste, multiple choice, etc. Don't just give them the task that you normally give to other learners that will require motor skills that are well developed. Understand. Give them other tasks that will require less of their motor skills to use, where they can use other skills as well. use large equipment, reduce the amount of activities that you give them, provide performers in large size with some information already recorded. That will help a learner with Down syndrome. So in other ways, don't just discard them and say, treat them like outcasts, to say, because they are having these problems, they don't belong in my class. They belong in a special school. Do something, try these support measures first. And if you see that, no, it becomes beyond your understanding and your capabilities, remember, in each and every school, there is that team that helps with the learners that have got barriers to learning, the team that helps you even before you refer the learner outside the class, outside the school. You contact those people in your school, the support teams that you have. Now let's move on to autism. Autism, also known as autistic spectrum disorder, ASD, is a lifelong pervasive developmental impairment, which appears to have a genetic predisposition and stems from multifaceted origins. It's the disturbance in the brain development and functioning. That is what it causes. Disturbance in the brain and the functioning. But we must be very careful here. Not all learners with autism have got mental problems. No, don't ever generalize. This thing can manifest itself in various ways and various forms. The definition that you were just given is a general definition, but you may find that you've got an ASD learner in your class who does not fit completely into that particular kind of a definition. Typical behaviors of learners with autism may include them having little or no eye contact at all. They don't want to look at you. They don't want to look at other learners, even when they communicate, trying to communicate. The eye contact is just not there. If it's there, it's very little. Don't interpret it as being a rudeness. No, it's something. Maybe it's autism. They've got abnormalities in the development of cognitive skills. For example, poor learning skills or resistance to normal teaching methods. It becomes a challenge to you as an educator if they resist to your teaching methods. So they require you to use other methods. They are saying to you, teach me the way I can learn. Don't teach me in a size that you think it will fit all of us. It's not like that. I want to learn in a specific way. So teach me in that particular way. So they've got these unusual responses to sensory inputs, such as covering their ears. Maybe there's a certain noise that is coming in. It may be a normal noise to everybody else in the classroom, but to them, it's displeasure. It's unacceptable. So they will be covering their ears. Sense of touch, taste, sight, hearing, or smell may be heightened or diminished. So they like to go to the extremes. Their sense of hearing can be heightening, or it can diminish. It's either too high or too low or not even there at all. They've got these bizarre eating patterns that maybe when you're watching, it's not so nice to watch. They've got high pain threshold. Those are typical behaviors that you can see through which the child may be having autism. Remember, it is not cut and dry to say if a child has got little or no kind of contact, then they are autistic. It may be not like that. But we are saying to you, look out for these signs. They may be an indication that you have got a child that has autism in your classroom. They will also cry or laugh for no apparent reason. They have got this dangerous, self-injurious behavior, like banging their head against the wall, scratching themselves, biting themselves. They've got abnormal sleep patterns, development of speech. There's a lot of that you can find when you read about autism, especially in tutorial letter 102. Right, now we have come to the end of this presentation today. We are hoping that what we have presented today will help you specifically for the period, the June-July 2021 examination. Remember, we have not covered everything here. We couldn't because of time constraints. Please note that all exams are written online. Remember that. The exam scripts are strictly submitted online. Please, students, this is a plea. Don't email us your exam scripts. Answer all questions in English. Ensure that you number your answers correctly as indicated in the examination paper. We do find, when I say do this, you will say, now they are treating us like children. We know how to number correctly. Well, I'm just reminding those who know, but sometimes they forget. Please number your answers correctly according to the numbers that are indicated in the examination paper. If you prefer to type your answers, which we also prefer, it's easier to read what is typed than what is handwritten. Sometimes our handwritings are not so readable. If you prefer to type in an Arial 1250. That's very important. So in other words, your font size should be not less or more than 12. If you write your answers, please write neatly, legible. Let us all see what is written. Handwritten paper-based answer sheets must be scanned and be converted into PDF format document. Remember, if it's not converted to PDF format document, since we are marking online, we are using JRouter system to mark. These handwritten answer sheets are not legible. We cannot read it. Ensure that you save your PDF as module number, exam, and student number. Please ensure that you do not upload a read-only file. We do get read-only files. We want to mark it. Online is read-only, we can't mark it. So this becomes a problem to you as a student. Whilst other students are receiving their results, you don't get your results and you are wondering what happened. The problem is you sent us a read-only file. We can't mark that. Remember to read and accept the declaration of honesty when you upload. This comes or marks the end of our presentation, students. We hope that this will help you. We wish you good luck. We want to see you pass. We want to see you completing your qualifications. And as Dr. Mkhuma said earlier on, if you encounter any problems, do contact us. We are there to assist. We cannot assist you directly with any problem that we have. There are certain problems that are beyond our competence, beyond our capacity. But at least as your lecturers, we know who can help you. If you present us with a challenge, a problem that we cannot help you with, at least we refer you to a particular person or we personally take that problem of yours to a person that we know can help you with that particular problem. Let me reiterate again what Dr. Mkhuma said. Don't send any correspondence of this module to Dr. Mati. Thank you so much, students. Good luck.